Hello. I hope you can hear me because I can't hear anybody. For some reason, um, I don't know why. So, but there's always something going on with this show. Anyway, I am so happy to be with you tonight. We're going to have a special show because we have an extra guest. So this is Lighting the Way with Beth Green and Friends, and I am Beth Green, otherwise known as Granny Rocks. And tonight I will be bringing on my friends as usual, but also we are going to have an extra friend coming on who would like to share about this really important topic. So I am thrilled to hear that you're hearing me since I'm not hearing me or anything else. So, anyway, if you notice this, here is the topic. There are many faces of capitulation. Let's share stories of standing strong. So, I would like to start with um, the difference between capitulation and collaboration, because I think it's really important. So, first of all, I think we're all aware, or most of us are aware, that we are becoming or have become an authoritarian state. They're using the military against American citizens. They're creating detention centers. Um, they're trying to disempower everybody, removing gerrymandering and all of that. So it's happening. It's happening right in front of us. ICE is breaking people's windows with absolutely no due process, just picking people up. And they're doing it under the name of immigration, which is nonsense. Now, what is the difference between capitulation and collaboration? Why is that important? And then I want to talk about how we can stand strong in the face of all of this. And how I want to see this is I want to give you some examples. Let's say you've got somebody with a gun to your head and you just say, okay, I give up, I surrender. That is capitulation. You feel overwhelmed, you feel outgunned, and you just accept that you're an allowance, that you're losing. Now, let's say you have a university and Trump is suing you or trying to get money out of you, extorting money out of you, and the university gives money to Trump. That is capitulation, especially because there's no legitimate reason for it. But supposing that same university decides to change their curriculum to eliminate anything that has to do with race or women or disagreeing with the government. Now, that is taking that next step. That is collaboration. In other words, we are now collaborating in the authoritarianism. We are collaborating in doing their bidding. That is very, very different. And I hope everybody is really seeing the difference in that. So, a lot of people are capitulating, but there are people collaborating. So, for example, if you are an ICE agent and you're going out there and you're just rounding people up with no due process and no probable cause just based on racial profile, you're collaborating. If you're just standing there and saying, I don't know what to do, they're doing all of this and I don't know how to fix it, I don't know how to stop them, then you're capitulating. So, why is that important? Well, I just want to share something from history with you, and then I want to get into what this means for us. There is something called Vichy France. In 1940, the Nazis took over, the Germans took over France, and they occupied part of France, and then the rest of it was taken over by a Nazi sympathizing Vichy government. And what that Nazi sympathizing Vichy government did is they did all the same things that the Nazis did. All the same things. They were rounding up immigrants, by the way. Immigrants, isn't that a familiar story? They were expelling Jews, they were sending them to concentration camps. Um, they were making it very difficult to protest. That was collaboration. They began to actually embody the beliefs, the systems, and the behaviors of the Nazis who had taken over the rest of France. That, my friend, is collaboration. Now, we are seeing more and more collaboration. Anybody who stays at ICE or the Department of Justice and does illegal things is collaborating with the Department of Injustice. They're collaborating with ICE. They are promoting the same policies. Now, what happens when we do that? Then the other side gets even stronger than if we just capitulate and say, oh, I don't know, I'm afraid, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do. Right. And it seems like one thing seems to lead to another. And that's important. We start very often by collaborating, and then by um, giving in, and then we end up becoming a part of the system of oppression. Now, why is that important? Are you kidding? Because more and more institutions are bending the knee and becoming collaborators. Vichy government in France is one of the most hated regimes anywhere. And that's what we're facing today. So, having distinguished between collaboration and just giving up, because one is just not fighting, and the other is lending your energy, your intelligence to that government. And the Department of Justice is not just giving up, it's collaborating. Now, there are so many illegal, immoral, inhumane, and unconstitutional things happening in our nation today. And the more we collaborate, the more powerful they become. Now, I want to say something on the other side. And we are going to talk about how we can take a stand, but I want to talk about this first. We are still in the majority. We don't like what's happening in this nation. We don't like the capitulation and we don't like the collaboration. But if we don't stand up and actually actively stop the process, then we are allowing something monstrous to happen in our nation. and we are losing our freedom. So if you think about how many of us there are, think about people who work for ICE. Let us say one day the people who work for ICE get up in the morning and say, no, I'm not going to be rounding up people with no probable cause, with no habeas corpus, with nothing. I'm not going to do it anymore. Guess what? It stops. If all the universities got together and said, we are not going to give Trump money, it stops. When Paramount Studios bought him off so that they could get their merger, that was capitulation. But when they fired Stephen Colbert, then they became collaborators because they said, yes, we are willing to get rid of the people you don't like. So I want you to think about yourself. Are you collaborating? Are you simply giving in? Or are you fighting back? Now, it's so easy to see institutions and individuals. You look at the Republican Congress, and they are not only giving in to him, the president, but they are also collaborating in forcing down our throats things that are illegal, immoral, and unconstitutional. They have become collaborators. So I'd like you to take a moment and ask yourself, are you standing up? Are you capitulating? Are you collaborating? And I'd love to hear from people who are going through that struggle and who are coming into a place of empowerment where they are refusing both to collaborate and to capitulate. And remember, we still have the power. So, with no further ado, I would like to invite my guests to join me. Um, Interestingly enough, I don't see James, but maybe he will show up. Yes, there he is at the bottom. All right, first guest on, because this is Beth Green and Friends, we have Lizzie Treehart, who is a regular on our show, and we really appreciate it. We have Todd Benton, another regular on our show, and remember, our people don't know what I'm going to say. James Maynard, who has no image, but I hope there is some sound there. If not, he'll have to come in and join me. And tonight we have a special guest, uh, which is Christine Benton. And she is here because she would like to share some of her experience of not cooperating and not collaborating. So, James, you seem to have the wrong uh, video again. Perhaps you should come in and join me here. So, who would like to begin to share what they have gone through? Maybe you started by just capitulating. Maybe you actually started collaborating. Maybe you are standing your ground. Who would like to begin? James? It's not, yours is not working. So I'm going to take you out and let's see, you're gone and here you are. You're going to be sitting next to me.
I
Okay.
can begin.
I cannot hear a single thing.
Ruh-roh.
I, here we go.
Now, can you hear us?
Okay,
Can
let's try it again.
can you hear me?
I can. Somehow
Okay.
or other, the voices were X'd out. I mean, there you go. And by the way, I would like to challenge all of you to share this program with 5 people. Share it on YouTube, share it on Facebook. take your guts in your hands and say, I would like to share this. I want to not collaborate and I don't want to capitulate. Or if this is not a good program, share some other program that you find equally important. Share it with 5 people and ask them to share it with 5 people. Because I can tell you something, YouTube does not like me and not, you know, allow me to reach people, but you can. See, we the people can do it. Okay, Christine, I think you said you wanted to share.
Yeah, when you were talking and then saying I'm a special guest, I was like, ruh-roh, because I don't feel like much of a, uh, I don't know. I feel like in political things, I am capitulating and that I'm not more vocal. Um, in other areas of my life, I can say I've taken a stand, but in the political arena, no. I mean, I do speak up once in a while. I'll see something on social media from somebody I know or something, and if it's off, I will like say something, or support something from somebody else. But so in that way, I definitely am an anti-collaborationalist.
Well,
Um,
there it is. You are not collaborating.
yeah,
You are not saying this is okay and I
mhm,
support it.
right.
So, we may be starting with small things. I'm not judging
Mhm.
what we're doing. I'm just saying, well, are you collaborating or capitulating? And you're saying no.
Yeah, I don't think it's capitulating either because I'm not allowing it to like even be on my stream, on my come across my view without saying something. Um, but I do think there is more. I do like what you said about distinguishing between capitulating and collaborating. And I do understand that. And it's a good distinction because there's one point of when you're just like, well, we knew something was going on, but we didn't know they were killing them in the camps. And then there's another thing to be like, joining up for the military and participating, and even as an administrator or something, right? Just so you can have a job. So the areas where I think I am more vocal and the ways in which I am are just among my at work, which I don't know why I'm not more afraid of losing my job or whatever, but I think part of it is the culture of our company. So, credit to that. Um, but when something comes down, like something did this year, that's such silly, ridiculous nonsense, and I don't want to like go publicly talk about it, but I said something, and then I shared it wide and broad and to the leadership of the organization. So, and it wasn't meant to be an attack or anything, but it was meant to provide some like, let's just be honest here of what's going on. And I think that's the way in which I don't capitulate the most. I will be like, okay, we can choose whatever this direction, but let's be clear that this is what we're choosing.
Mhm.
Like let's not pretend. So that's kind of the best way that I can use my abilities is to clarify what's happening. And I think that helps other people too to be like, okay, got it. I'm clear. If I went that way, I'm choosing based on fear or capitulating versus based on what's important to me.
That's great. You are choosing not to collaborate and not to capitulate in areas where you feel you can at this point.
Mhm.
You don't know what tomorrow will bring. You don't know how you're going to react to things then, but you've already started gearing up yourself to stand up.
Mhm.
Sometimes we start with the place where it feels safest, and that's okay. That's better than just you're not capitulating. You're not
Mhm.
saying, oh, well, you know, I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job. And, I would like to say something about the fear because authoritarians rule through fear, right? So they're saying, oh, Columbia University or Harvard or Brown, if you don't change your curriculum, if you don't change your attitude towards your foreign students, if you don't do this, then we're going to do that. The minute they change what they're doing in order to satisfy what this authoritarian government is asking them to do, which is totally against freedom of speech, the minute they do that, they have stepped over the line.
Mm-hmm.
They are now collaborating because they are becoming the enforcers.
Mm-hmm.
So that, you could say, well, that's a small arena. That's also a small arena. But if we're all doing it in our own arena,
Mm-hmm.
that adds up. And I want to say something else about fear. For some people, it's very obvious. Oh, I'm going to lose my job. And I'm afraid of that. Or I'm going to be sent to, uh, you know, some kind of horrible detention center where we're treated like dogs and people are dying. I can understand that fear. That's fear. And then you end up just capitulating because you haven't got the power to do anything about it. Um, but if you become a guard in that prison, you have crossed that line
Mm-hmm.
and you are collaborating. So some of it is very obvious, but there is another level of fear. And this is what I would like to talk about next, which is before I bring on the rest of my guests, which is we have been conditioned to collaborate as well as to capitulate. The minute that you said to yourself or your family, I want to become an artist, and your mother said, you'll never make a living that way. Or, if you start behaving like that, men aren't going to like you because they're going to feel threatened. All of a sudden, if you capitulate, you say, oh, yeah, it's not sensible. I don't want to be an artist. I want to do that part time or as an avocation. But I'm going to become an accountant instead. You have already capitulated. Now, when you say to your baby sister, you don't want to become, a Peace Corps volunteer. You've got to be thinking about your future. You need to go to school and get some kind of a trade. By the way, the joke is on everybody because today you can go get an education and you still have no guarantee that you're going to have a job because they're removing the educated people from our society because we don't want educated people. We want ignorant people who are just going to follow what they're told to do. But if you now say to your sister, you don't want to do that, now you are a collaborator because you are actually suppressing her and you don't even know it. Most people don't even remember when they made that choice
Mm-hmm.
to go along with what the pressure was from their family, from their friends, from the society. And so we need to realize that we are conditioned to collaborate as well as to capitulate. So people don't know. They don't even realize they're saying, well, I'm not afraid. It's just that I just don't think that, yeah, because they don't know that on a subconscious level, they're already geared to do that. So I think that's important.
Yeah, I think if we were honest, we would admit we all
I
are
can't hear you.
collaborating. Oh, can you hear
Oh,
me?
my speaker went out yet again.
It did.
Unbelievable. Not only did they want me to speak, but they don't want me to hear. Go ahead.
I think if we were honest, we'd all admit that we're all collaborating on the world we've co-created, right? One that's like, survival of the fittest, capitalist society, Like at some level, we're all justifying that this is how it has to be and how we live and how we consume and everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's good. So we're already geared. So you look at it and you say, how the hell could this be happening in the United States of America? Well, because it's been happening for decades, for centuries, that we're going along and going along and going along. And I mean, as bad as things are, we're saying, well, my life isn't all that different today, but it is. It is different because the fear level and the resistance to resistance keeps growing. So thank you for sharing that. Who would like to share next?
I'll share next. Um, I've been really thinking about your capitulation collaboration. I know I'm definitely not collaborating, and I don't feel like I'm capitulating, but um, I mean, I am taking some action. I went to the first march, and then I went to the No Kings here in Escondido. I missed one of them, and you confronted me on that one, which was good. Um, but I'm also taking action with my representatives. I have a Republican representative, and I've been telling him how I feel.
Good
So
for
that
you.
is on every issue that I can. When something comes across my screen that I have the opportunity to tell them, no, I don't want this, and even my state representative, on. So I feel like I have been pretty vocal with what I can with my elected representatives, because those are the people that represent me until something changes. Um, I think I'm always going to feel like there's more I could do. So that's the paradox, because that could be a trap, of like beating myself up and feeling crappy because I'm not doing enough. So I have to just be mindful of that. And um, so that's where I'm at this moment. I feel like I am taking action. I don't want to beat myself up because I know there's always more I could be doing. But I also don't want to use that as an escape hatch to just go, okay, well, I've done all I can. So it's paradoxical in that way. But I'm just trying to stay in action and trying to link up with people that feel the same way and see, what can be done. So I'm learning a lot and reading a lot and trying to, not just go into that pit of, oh my God, everything's horrible, but what can we do about it? What can we actually do?
Is there something in particular that you feel like you're not taking a stand, or do you feel like you really are thoroughly taking a stand on everything that you believe in?
Um, Good question. Yeah, I mean, could I be out there and helping stop people from getting, frisked and taken away? I don't know. Like that's something I know people have been protecting other people, letting them know what their rights are. If ICE comes to your home, unless they have a
Mhm,
warrant, you don't have to open the door. And,
mhm.
so I think there are things I could do to educate, like even Lupita, for example. I don't know that she knows that. And I could say something to that about her, send her information. I just said that
And
because I
there's
know we
some
are,
in
but I don't want to
Spanish.
say, yeah, exactly.
So why don't you?
Good question. I will. I just thought of that now.
Good.
Yeah.
Christine, you had your hand up.
Well, I'm just noticing that Todd tends to do things that are like big in public, and I tend to confront on an interpersonal level, like both of which can be uncomfortable, right? When it's like a friend or someone you care about. So I was wondering for Todd if he's doing that in like a more one-on-one situation where it's like the relationship can feel a little it can feel a little scary in terms of like what could happen to that relationship with that friend or that person that you know closely if you're confronting them.
That's an interesting point. You're saying that if you engage in something with a lot of people, there's an anonymity about it versus, uh, where nobody's going to come after you, or it's very unlikely that someone is going to come after you. But if there are things that you would do that are not anonymous, there might be some fear. It's good that you're doing what you are doing. That's important. And then you can ask yourself, well, and we all need to do this. It's not just you. We need to ask ourselves, well, is there something else that I really believe in that I'm not standing up for that isn't in the mass of a million people where I feel safe?
Mhm. No, it's a good question. I think with my children, I tend to not want to push them, because for one, I'm trying to deal with the thing of being superior, so I think that anytime I do that, I have to really question my motivation. And even then, I don't know if I'm totally clean because there's
Mhm,
been that history and that kind of
mhm.
yucky feeling for them of me like being superior. So right now, I'm kind of just backing off that whole thing. But it is a good question. I mean, I appreciate that, Christine, because I'm thinking this is not regarding the administration and what they're doing, but I feel like I am taking more vocal action with people I care about. The client I mentioned, working with her and then following up with her, asking her about her session and, so, um, not just leaving it there and going, oh, great, she did it. And then just ending the conversation there. So, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, James, you were next.
I have a tendency to cater to authority. And so this shows up over and over. Beth has noticed it when somebody's wearing the white coat of a doctor or a medical professional. I cater to their judgment or I try to please them. But in the political arena, I've tended to do that too if somebody sounds like they're an authority. But I'm noticing that I'm gaining on it. Uh, when Beth and I attended a particular meeting here in our hometown of political activists, and we were in a small group, and one of the people who was co-leading the group had been was the campaign organizer of the person who became the House of representative for us for that district. I thought, oh my God, this guy's really he's an authority.
Mm.
But Beth held forth, and this guy had a whole different idea. Instead of being really activist, he was just saying, "Oh, well, if somebody's a Trump supporter or whatever, just try to make friends and be nice neighbors, and maybe someday they'll come along." And Beth was being very proactive, and I joined with her, and I supported that, and I was proactive too. So that's to me a good example of standing up. And also, I just want to mention on the career level how conditioned we can be. Uh, when I was choosing a career for the future as a young man, I went to law school, and the thing to do to be successful was to make great grades and get to a big law firm that represents the fat cats, the wealthy and the powerful. And if you get that, you are a collaborator with them to avoid paying taxes and to avoid monies going to people who are poor or low income, who are in entitlement programs, etc. And I resisted that impulse, that urge, although initially I felt that urge to do that and become successful. But I encountered some people who, well, like one of whom could come out of the Peace Corps and had so much feeling for people and helping people. And by the time I graduated law school, I was very enamored of going out there and helping the poor. And so I joined the anti poverty program, the legal services program, to provide free legal services to those who couldn't afford them. So that felt good. That felt like I had a turn in the road, that instead of going for collaboration, I went for taking a stand for what felt good and right to me and was helpful.
Yeah, that's good. Of course, you still were working for the government because the
Yeah,
government was doing the anti poverty programs. So that's that was a good thing. And we're talking about steps, like we take steps.
Right.
Like that was a step.
That was a step.
That was a step. It's not like you went out and joined, what was the name of those lawyers who,
The guild,
yeah, the National Lawyers Guild or something
Lawyers Guild. Yeah.
that defended the protesters.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
like you
I watched one
really,
of their trials, but I was not a participant.
right. So again, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. If
Sure.
we can look at, okay, I just did this. I wonder what more I could do.
I see.
Am I still in fear? Am I looking for a safe place
Ah,
to do my protesting, something that is part of the government, or something where there's a million people who are all around me and that I'm not standing out there by myself, or where it's very private, as Christine was talking about it. Nobody outside of this will know about it. And then you get to ask yourself, is it important to me to take that next step or not? Is that the right thing for me? Sometimes it's right to stay to do just what you're doing and say that's perfect because it fits you, fits your capacities, it fits your gifts, your talents. But it becomes increasingly difficult to justify that as we've become increasingly authoritarian. And something that I just heard Rachel Maddow say on NBC that I didn't know about, which is that the U.S. government is expanding the where the military can operate in 20, I think it's in 20 states, for hundreds of miles. That the U.S. military can now go out and stop people and arrest people. In other words, like be an extension of ICE. Uh, and we're using the U.S. military against American citizens. It's like, you've got to be kidding. I didn't even know about that. It's like every day, and I feel this too, every day they are more and more outrageous in what they're doing, like the gerrymandering in Texas, uh, where I have to say the Democrats are really saying, no, I am really taking a stand. I am taking a stand. Whether we're being fined or we're going to be arrested. And we've seen that the administration will arrest people just because they are in the opposition. And so there's been an increase in the level of taking a stand, as which is really important to notice as we are also going through an increase of authoritarianism and oppression. Because before you know it, we won't be able to do any of these things. I mean, that's the way it's going. It's getting to the point that, okay, if you're a foreign student at Columbia, you're not allowed to have this idea or go to this kind of a protest. I thought we had a constitution that spoke of freedom of speech, and so you could say, well, I've been writing and talking about this, but this is how bad it's getting. And it kind of puts the burner up. It's like, well, am I really doing what I can do? Have I reached my limit? And then you have to respect that. You just have to, because otherwise you're not going to be able to do anything. Or you can say, well, under these circumstances, do I take a next step? And what would that next step be for me? Again, it has to be appropriate for where you're most effective. If you're most effective dealing with individuals one on one, then you do that. You do it with individuals, but you maybe take a stronger stand or you encompass more things. I'm not suggesting that anybody here should do any of these things. I'm just saying that the times are so desperate that it brings us constantly questioning. And we just came back from the forest. We took a little two night time to go to a campground, and we were in the forest. And I swear to God, I did not want to come back. I did not want to do this show. I really didn't. I just wanted to stay in the trees and say, a pox on all of you. How the hell have we allowed this to get to this point? And we know that the income inequality and the power inequality has all set the stage for all of this to happen. We know that that's true. And so, okay, am I going to fight more? I just didn't want to come home. But I forced myself to do this show. And I forced myself by reminding myself what is going on, and also reminding myself that every time I go into the forest, I am gathering the strength to fight more. And that has to be the purpose in my mind. It's the purpose. I go to my family for love. I go to music to lift my spirit. And all of that has to, in my mind, and I'm only speaking for myself, has to be a way of gaining the strength, the power, the courage, and the energy to keep confronting things. And I said, I got to go home and I've got to talk about this. Lizzie, would you like to share next?
Well, I have been resisting. I've been going to marches and gatherings and talking to people to remind others of our original Declaration of Independence, stating, hey, it states there that if our government doesn't do what it's designed to do, get rid of it and create a new one. And even though people seem to balk at that, I'm still talking about it. I still look at that as well. At least I'm planting a seed, whether they agree or not.
Yeah,
So I don't feel like I am capitulating. I don't feel like I'm collaborating, but I do wonder sometimes I do get discouraged.
yeah,
And I am still trying to do what I can, take care of myself, get out in nature, the things that help lift me up. Um, there's probably more I could do. I could probably talk with more people, but sometimes it's not, unless I bring it. It feels kind of awkward sometimes in my job to bring it up,
mhm,
with what I do. But if somebody asks me about it, I will share.
mhm.
But I do wonder what else I could do. I'm in an area of the country where my representatives are all believe the same way. So I haven't made a lot of calls because
Yeah,
they already, they
yeah, they
already,
already agree. Why bother? I'm in
right.
the same
So,
situation.
uh, you know, I, I've thought about, do I try and call some people in my family that I know and talk to them about it? But it's like, I can't change people's minds.
Yeah,
So I, I do like almost like a meditative thing where, it's not like I'm actually getting there out there and doing things, but I'm envisioning,
yeah, right.
what could be, what,
Yeah,
I've talked about it before, the goodness of people prevailing and,
yes.
coming forth and coming together as communities. And so I'm doing that on a regular basis.
That's really good. So it looks like you're not only doing things, but you're asking the question. And that's really what I'm asking you. Are you asking that question? Is there something more? And is that something more, something internal? I'd like to say we've had some comments. We are broadcasting on Facebook and YouTube. And if you are on Facebook, please give the show a like or a love and follow us. And if you're on YouTube, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. So Amy's on Facebook said, I can hear you, which is great. And she said later, we can hear. And then Betsy said, hi, sorry, a little bit late. I had problems with the internet. Oh, I do too. But I must say, over here in Puerto Rico, we love you. And as always, a great program. I had no idea Betsy was in Puerto Rico. I am like over the moon. She said, we love you. That must mean that there's more than Betsy. I need to hear that. One of the things that works a lot, that really helps me, is getting that kind of support, is somebody saying, I love what you're saying. If they do, I mean, obviously not lying. I love what you're saying. More people need to be saying this. So I think what I'm getting at is it's not always a question of should I talk to this one or that one? Um, but it's more like, what exactly am I saying? Am I really speaking what I feel versus I should do more or I should say it to so and so? Am I willing to put my neck out there? Say, I'm willing to say that the government is, authoritarian. Well, that's not a big deal. I think a lot of people know the government is authoritarian. I've talked a lot about the underlying capitalist system, which I think Christine was referring to, and how that has come how it comes about that we've gotten to this place. I'm talking about the conditioning that people have to capitulate. I'm talking about, are you capitulating? Are you collaborating? I am trying to confront as best I can things that people don't want to hear.
You're doing a good job.
Thank you. Thank you. But you understand what I mean. It's like it's not always about quantity or doing it somewhere else. It's like, am I really taking a stand for what I really believe? Um, oh, Amy said, sorry, I didn't let you know that I appreciate this topic and the questions you suggest we ask ourselves. Yay, Amy. Thank you. That's meaningful. Yes, I want you to keep asking these uncomfortable questions, even though it makes me uncomfortable. And that's a big support. And like I said, if every one of you shared this with 5 people and asked them to share it with 5 people, that could help create a little trickle in the algorithm because they don't like people like us. There are some people they like and some people they don't like. And I don't know why. But so, is there anything else? I hope that this has been helpful to us and to our audience, this conversation. Um, we look back on Vichy France as a shameful time in French history. It's unbelievable. I think they shipped off a quarter of the French Jews, and they didn't really have to because they were collaborators, but they did. And it's look what's happening now. It's the Mexicans, right? Um, and you look at it and say, how could people have put up with this? Well, now we know there is a habit of giving into power, of being afraid to lose something that's important to us, which is very understandable. But we have to watch this because we are losing something which is very important to us, which is our freedom. And it's slipping away right in front of us. And so if we're afraid to fight for it now, we won't be able to fight for it later. That's my thought. So if no one else has anything to share today, I think we'll draw this to the close. It was a delight having you with us, Christine, as well as our other friends. You are certainly welcome to come back if you would like to. And if anybody from our audience feels very inspired to participate, you can always write a comment, you can suggest a topic, or maybe even come on the show if that works out. So there it is. Thank you, James. Thank you, everyone. Yes. So now I'm
Bye-bye
going
for
to
now.
try to get this going out the right way.